Imagine getting a truck capable of holding up to 5 people or more, capable of holding a 4x8 sheet of plywood, 500 horsepower, all electric, and a vehicle that, in terms of length, is about the same length as a Mini Cooper 2-door. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Telo pickup truck. So, I wanted to introduce somebody who is directly involved with this. Tell everybody your name.
I'm Jason Marks. I am the CEO of Telo Trucks.
All right, first of all, Jason, what have you done in terms of the creation of this truck?
So this is first and foremost a mini truck, and that's a new category of vehicles.
Right.
We like to think about it, talk about pickup trucks in downtown cities, which might seem like an oxymoron, but there are so many trucks for people like me that have a giant dog,
Right.
go snowboarding, mountain biking, maybe construction workers that build our skyscrapers that have been clamoring for a small truck.
Right.
You know, other countries have them, Japan,
Oh, sure.
India, China, but we've never had one in the US. We want to be the first mini truck company for the US.
But in many ways, this isn't exactly a mini truck. First of all, it's a little deceptive because it's a lot wider than I think people understand. It's what,
3 inches.
73 inches. I mean, that is relatively wide, and it has to be because you want to be able to put a full sheet of plywood in this thing and actual large human beings like myself inside of it. So it still doesn't really look like it would hold that many people.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What about the big chunky monkey getting into a vehicle like this? Well, check this out. Here we go. All right, now I have the seat forward a little bit, but wait for it. There we go. That fit actually pretty good.
Well, we colloquially joke this has a big truck energy, right? It doesn't necessarily look like it's a tiny little truck, but it really is the footprint of a 2-door Mini Cooper, 152 inches long. We've really optimized this vehicle so that it can have the maximal utility. Like you said, 5 people, a 5-foot bed in the standard configuration. It can also be a two-person vehicle with an 8-foot bed. Yep, that's it.
Fantastic, cool. So this gives you an extra, I'm gonna guess this is 18 inches
right, yep.
or so?
This is composite,
Oh, it is?
This is composite bed.
Oh, excellent.
but it's got L-tracks in it, which we love.
That's what I wanted to point out, yeah. So check this out. This is great, Molly panels and whatnot. All the way around too, which is great. Right by the bulkhead, thank you for doing that.
Yep.
But the reason it's not on the bulkhead is very important, guys, and that's because that folds,
That's right.
which is huge.
So when it's ready, I'm going to hit this button, and then we're just going to bring the seat down.
Do I have to hit it at the same time?
No, just one person.
It's like 2 keys on the
Yeah.
nuclear thing.
There it is.
How cool is that? Does this remove as well?
It does not.
Okay, but this is still a nice chunk of space.
Yep.
So,
It's as much space as you can move the seats forward.
so as it's configured right now, as with the tailgate down, the whole 9 yards, you can lay down a 4x8 sheet of plywood in this.
So this edge right here is 7 feet 2 inches.
Okay.
So the further forward you can slide the seats is how you get. So you have to sit pretty far forward to get a 48-inch, full 8-foot sheet of plywood in there.
Right.
It certainly will fit.
And if you have the tailgate down, then it's not a big deal because you can just have it peeking out a little
But
bit
the nice
from the
thing
back.
is like what the use case we see all the time for the consumer side is, hey, if you're a surfer,
yeah, surfboards or longboards or
and you want to lock it up, you get a locking tonneau cover, close the midgate, and you got your surfboard in here.
fantastic. I wanted to point out, look at these wheel wells. They're way, way, way out of the way.
You know how we do that? That's a fun one. So we use a multi-link independent rear suspension. And most trucks, they use a different type of strut architecture. If they are independent, it's a double wishbone type style. Problem with that is that your struts come up almost as high as the wheel travel.
That's right, and that would come into the space.
Yep. So another gripe I have about my Tacoma is you can't fit a 48-inch sheet of plywood across the wheel wells.
What do you think the payload of this little truck's going to be?
So we've actually engineered the payload from the get-go, and so we spec'd a 1,700-pound payload.
You're
for this
kidding.
vehicle. Nope.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because the first thing you want is a utilitarian vehicle if you're going to do something like this. Like the idea of the Japanese K trucks, you said they were first and foremost work trucks for the city.
That's exactly it. Yeah. What's the towing capacity of this?
So it's 6,600 pounds.
Okay.
But like any other EV, you have to take towing capacity with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
So we don't expect anybody to buy this vehicle and think that they're going to go long haul towing on this thing.
Totally get that.
We think that they're going to buy this vehicle, and the towing applications will be to take their boat out of the water on the weekends, to pick up a big thing or take a big thing of things to the dump. That's going to be like less than 50 miles.
Right. Rent a U-Haul to try to move an apartment from one place to another.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, totally get that. Now, I believe there's two different motor options. You can either get it rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And if you get it all-wheel drive, that's where you get the big horsepower, right? Like 500 horsepower. But the starting vehicle, the base model, so to speak, would be the rear drive one, right?
Correct.
So this example is all-wheel drive.
Yep.
And I'm guessing that in order to make the all-wheel drive most efficient, you're going to have the all-wheel drive governed by the ABS system, so the wheel that's spinning gets clamped down and the wheel that has traction is allowed to do its thing.
That's right, and it really has an advantage in snow conditions and dirt driving conditions.
The steering is interesting. It's got a decent weight to it. It's a little light, but it's not as light as some of the other EVs I've tested.
Yeah, I mean, that's tunable. With these electronic power steering systems, you can really get in there and gauge your own profiles. But it does have a direct linkage between the steering wheel and the gearbox down there. So.
That's actually a really good thing to have.
Yeah, but it's still, you can change how much assist you give.
What's its range?
Yeah, so inside of our long-range pack in the vehicle, it's 106 kilowatt hours. Now, if you'll note, that's up there with some of the most long-range vehicles, EVs on the planet, right?
Yeah, that's a big battery.
And we package that into this tiny little footprint. So a big core part of our IP is how do you package the most amount of energy into the smallest space possible? And that's the secret as to how we get 350 miles in this package.
I see. 350 miles. That's with the rear motor?
That's with either motor options, actually.
Really?
Because we really optimize the motors to be in their most efficient range while they're driving on the highway.
Ah, okay. Have you taken this on the highway yourself and really had a chance to experience what this is like, other than back roads, which is cool. I mean, and by the way, the ride is well sorted. But how is it on the highway?
Yeah, so this vehicle, being very honest with you, is still pre-production. You hear the rattles.
Yeah.
And the rattles actually didn't exist 3 days ago.
Well, you guys have been beating up on it, showing us. Yeah, totally get it.
Exactly, and it will get airborne at some point.
I like that.
So, it certainly has its quirks, and we have to go chase all those down and figure them out. But, honestly, because we use, we started with a vehicle packaging study and a vehicle dynamics study, and every one of the members of our team are all hardcore engineers, and they love it. So we optimize our vehicle dynamics for the package we have. Today, I got to drive it for the first time on the highway with a police escort at 65 miles an hour, and it was, other than being noisy, it felt very planted.
Very cool. Here, first of all, is it a skateboard platform? You know how a lot of people are using that.
Yeah, it is, but it's, it's funny because the term skateboard platform has been so overused, so I like to actually tell you what it is as opposed to just blanket calling it a skateboard
No, please do.
Yeah, so really what it is it is a aluminum carbon fiber chassis, and we use carbon fiber only in the parts that have the most space requirements for having the most optimized area, and that's really the front firewall and the front wheel well.
Gotcha.
That's where the carbon fiber is used. Now, the rest is an aluminum bonded chassis, very similar to how Lotus builds their vehicles, how Tesla built their vehicles in the early days, Aston Martin builds their vehicles. And the great part about doing it in that way is that it's extremely low cost tooling to be able to actually build a vehicle chassis. So that's how we do the chassis itself. It could be considered a body on frame, it could be considered a skateboard chassis, but fundamentally it's an aluminum carbon structure with a top hat that goes on top of it that also then becomes structural once it's bonded.
Do you have a charge rate number, like a DC fast charging?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you're running an NACS.
Correct. NACS native in the vehicle.
Right. Yeah, okay.
So what's really important here is that we have a 106 kilowatt hour pack. The way that we've configured our pack, both thermally and electrically, is it can charge at 3C, which means that theoretically the pack could charge up to 300 kilowatts. Now, because it's a 400 volt architecture, most superchargers and other systems will be limited to about 250
250
kilowatts.
or so, yeah, but it's still, that's right up there. That is competitive right out of the box with a lot of the other competition who are I mean, some people are still running at 150 or even less, which is...
Well, that's the core. The word you just used, out of the box, is kind of the ethos to how we do this.
Ah, okay.
You know, we're not reinventing the wheel. The only part that we engineer ourselves from the electrical perspective is the battery pack.
Oh, okay.
The motors, the inverters, the combined charging unit, the DC to DC converter, the NACS port, it's all commercially bought off the shelf.
Got you. And that keeps the price lower, and also you already know it's a reliable component.
Yeah,
when you put it in there.
It's crazy how kind of like the commoditization of electrical components have happened over the last decade, where we can go and buy an inverter that pulls 250 horsepower that fits in the palm of my hands. It's crazy. Like just like 5 years ago, that would have been a $10,000 part.
Right, right. Question about the powertrain itself. Are you running a drive unit in the back to where you actually have the ability to lock the rear wheels, so you have a rear locker type thing, or is
Currently, it's limited slip, and that comes back to what is commercially available off the shelf,
Right.
that's able to do the things that we want it to do. Limited slips have gotten pretty good in the past. I mean, I'll be honest with you, you're not going to want to take this thing to the Rubicon.
Well, yeah, there's height. I mean,
It's got 10 inches of ground clearance, which I think is
that's decent.
pretty on par.
Yeah.
That's what you would expect, but certainly not going to take you over giant cresting rocks and things like that. So this is a fun one. So this is our storage area, and we colloquially call this the monster tunnel.
Monster tunnel, huh?
You know why? You have a guess?
Because it's a large tunnel.
Because it's under the bed.
A monster goes under the bed. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well done. So it goes all the way through to the other side.
all the way through.
Is that weight bearing, by the way?
It will be.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend sitting on it right now.
Someone like me is not going to sit on anything that you tell me not to sit on.
So the intention though is that you want to use that as either if you have a camper shell, you want to step onto it,
Yeah.
you can, or if you want to, like, say you have your snowboards in the truck, you take it out, you want to put your boots on, you just sit down, put your boots on.
Easy enough. Now, by the way, before we go any further, I was told by one of your engineers that this, I believe, comes off.
It does.
And then you can put on not only an enclosure, but a glass enclosure, which actually makes it look like an SUV.
Yeah, one of my biggest gripes I had, so I've driven a Toyota Tacoma my whole life. You know, I have 250,000 miles in my 2012 Tacoma because I live in downtown San Francisco, and I have a 150-pound dog.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I take him to the beach. I love it. One of the things I really despise about my Tacoma, and it's no fault of Toyota, but it's just that all these trucks have these third-party aftermarket camper shells that go on, and they're terrible to put on,
Yep.
and they never fully integrate. The colors never match, and
Yeah.
the springs break, the shocks break down day after day. So we want to provide a fully integrated one, and the order to do this in the most effective way is we didn't want to necessarily just butt two pieces of material up to each other. So underneath this is a little shelf with a ledge and a locking bin on it. So the idea is that we would actually not only build our own fully integrated camper shell, but we'd also give that spec to third parties that want to do that so that theirs fully integrate, so no one has that same headache.
I totally get that. And not only that, but it makes it your own.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a couple things I wanted to go over real quick. Now, this is a pre-production vehicle, but you already have a couple different textures that are going on here, which is really cool. This actually, is this recycled plastic that you guys
cork.
use? Ah, it's cork. That's awesome. All your controls are right here. Very simple automotive layout that you guys are used to. I believe, is this a speaker here?
That's right.
Okay, far out. Okay, very cool setup here. This screen looks like it's about 13 inches wide, but
That's right.
Okay, it's just a guesstimate. And you got Daft Punk, so let's try, which is awesome.
These don't work.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's right. It's a pre-production.
I can show you the screens which they kind of got laid out, and obviously I can put this over here to show you.
There we go. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, okay. So you can get the full thing on the vehicle here, but, and I do appreciate this, you have instrumentation right in front of the driver as well. So miles per hour, distance traveled, battery level, percentage, park neutral drive. This is the gear lever, I'm guessing?
Currently that is the way that you get the the lights on.
Oh, okay, that's the lights. So where's the gear lever then?
So this, for a pre-production vehicle, it's hidden.
Oh, okay.
It's actually on if you look at your right-hand side, sorry, left-hand side, and you click this little thing like that.
This thing here?
Yeah. There you go.
There. Oh, look at that. And also you have, it looks like auxiliary traction control and a few other things. So all of this is going to be somewhere else.
That's
Roughly,
right.
Where do you expect it to be?
But we will have physical buttons here as well. And this is actually a fun one. This will eventually be a third party that we're working with that does a capacitive knob. It sticks onto a touchscreen panel to give you actual capacitive click and movement.
Oh, okay. So you're going to feel that field feedback as you're moving it around.
Exactly.
Right. Gotcha. All right. Very cool. So very simple setup. This is one of the beauties of electric vehicles Not everybody loves them, but you got to admit having a simplicity of just basic things makes things easier. Is this standard?
Yes, that's standard.
So all Telo vehicles are going to have this big roof here. Is this something that can be moved? Or?
So there's going to be a couple options of actually roofs you can have.
Uh-huh.
Like this will be the standard option
Okay.
because it really optimizes for head height.
Yeah, gotcha.
And one of the things is like when you drive a vehicle that already has a very small kind of passenger compartment, although it's optimized for occupant, it's still relatively small.
Yeah.
It can feel kind of constrained if,
Right,
you,
I
if
gotcha.
you don't have the visibility of the world around you.
Okay.
But we have a partnership with Aptera, which is a solar EV company.
Oh, I know them. Yeah.
And they have spec'd out and engineered just a panel that fits directly in this exact same spot, with the exact same profile with the tooling we're using that has solar panels on it as well.
So something like that, I mean, now some people say that, the solar panels, they're confused about it, They feel like, if you leave it parked for a couple days, you can totally charge your battery up. Now, at least with current panel technology, that's really not the case.
No, but that's not the intention of what this would be. I mean, really, there's two main reasons that you would want that. One is, if you leave your car parked outside for a long time, there's residual draw of current from the vehicle.
Right.
And it can do things like kill your 12 volt, or it can just drain the battery slowly. And that's the last thing you want. You want to come back to your vehicle and know it at least has the same amount of charge you left in it.
Exactly, yeah.
And the second thing is, let's say you go camping. If you're camping over in, you want to go for a hike for 20 miles, you go park in the morning in the sun, and you go camping, you go hiking, you come back to your vehicle, you want to sleep in your truck. You want power for your phone.
Right.
You want to be able to turn a heater on maybe in the back and the vehicle not die.
Totally get that. And I appreciate you doing it because there's so many people out there who are just like, oh yeah, your car will be charged in 9 hours. It's not the case. Are there going to be any other changes? I'm looking at a lot of these textures and whatnot. I'm curious about what you guys have in mind.
Yeah, we have, like, a lot of what you're seeing here is production intent in terms of the design. So like this is called it's a fabric called Mismace fabric. It's got all the things you would want in EV. It's like sustainable, but it's also pretty available and not that high dollar amount. So it really makes it feels premium, but it makes it approachable. And that's really what we're going after here. It's like an EV pickup truck that every man can buy.
What about the seats? Heated seats, ventilation, heated steering wheel, stuff like that?
Yeah, so those will all be available options as well. But we're super focused on getting this as soon as possible into people's hands.
Gotcha.
So we're not going to hyper-accessorize the vehicle.
Well, that always brings the price up, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It always does.
Well, it was a fabulous little drive in this.
But you want to give it a run?
Yeah, I do. Functional wipers, you got them up there. That's where they're going to be in production?
That's where they will be.
Uh-huh.
And the reason we did it this way is a fun one because we've optimized everything with the front of the vehicle for crash structure. Even though it looks like there's almost no hood, there's still 40.
There's actually quite a bit.
Yeah, I know, right? It's it's interesting way in which you package the occupants.
I think it's because from the outside it looks like a cab over design where you're going to be sitting on top of the wheels, and you're really not. I mean, I'm a big guy, and the wheels I would say are probably where my toes are roughly from the distance where I'm sitting, and that's just the wheels, and there's more structure in front of it. So yeah, interesting. And there's definitely a little bit of beef on these doors too. So side impact and all that looks like you guys are already working on it.
Yeah.
Right.
And we started this vehicle actually with kind of two ideas in mind. Like, in order to build a extremely functional mini truck, you needed to solve two problems. You needed to have it be, how do you package the most amount of range and performance into a small footprint? That's my co-founder for his kind of expertise. He was on the original Tesla battery team.
Ah, okay.
So he kind of built the battery packs for the first Roadsters.
Gotcha.
And I worked on safety systems for some of the first EV pickup trucks. And so the big other thing is, how do you meet and exceed crash safety in a world where we have 4 foot plus long hoods that are 5 feet tall?
Right, yeah. So you figured that out with
We
this.
started with those two pieces of engineering.
And what we were just talking about in terms of how this vehicle will be a safe vehicle is the fact that with the motors, they're basically built to break away below you and everything pushes outward because the way the platform is designed, it's designed in a frontal crash to have everything, all the energy shoot below you.
That's right.
So that's an important point, I think.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of vehicles that have claimed that before as well, right?
Uh-huh.
And we've seen that. But what's really important is that the motors actually sit like almost directly in front of where the base of my foot is. So it's very easy to get them underneath the vehicle. They don't sit up here and have to somehow submarine themselves way underneath the vehicle. That's already
even some
down
electric
there.
cars today still do, which just drives me crazy. But this one, they're down there, and that means that all of your mass is below you as well.
That's right.
Okay, that's huge. So
all of this area still has crash zone, but there's nothing actually in front of it. So it's really just purpose-built for the crash itself.
is there a frunk on this thing, a front
There's
trunk?
no frunk. It's just a crash zone.
That's completely fine with me. Being safe is good.
You know, it's funny because like we've been asked that before, like, oh, what? You lose the frunk, and how's that safe? I'm like, well, if you put a big steel box in your frunk, there's no way that's safe.
So when do you expect production to begin?
You know, if everything goes well, we hope to deliver our first vehicles in 2026
Really?
because we use contract manufacturing.
Oh, that's right. Okay. And you're already up to a point to where you can work with these people and say, okay,
Exactly.
this is we're already lined up. We got all our ducks in a row.
Not all of them, but we've got a lot of them in
A lot of the ducks in a row. I'm sure people are curious. What is going to be the starting price of a Telo?
Yep. So for the normal range, rear-wheel drive version,
That's 350 miles roughly, I think.
the normal range is 260 miles.
260.
The long range is 350.
Okay, gotcha.
But the starting point for the standard range and the single motor version will be 41,520.
There are a lot of things that we will be discovering about this vehicle. I sincerely hope they have the ability to get to that next level and actually put this into production, because you know that TFL Truck and TFL EV are going to test the hell out of them. Super cool little truck. If they can get to a point to where it's really going into production at $41,000 for one vehicle that has over 250 miles range, yeah, I might actually be looking at getting my hands on one. And I'm not even kidding about that. You guys remember, I had a small pickup before, and I was disappointed having to get rid of it, but I didn't replace it. What a replacement this could make. Tell me what you guys think. Yeah, okay, forget about the whole electric thing. Tell me what you think about it in terms of as a truck and considering how much stuff you can put into it. I think that's pretty cool. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys next time.